Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of ArmTalk. I'm your host, Jody Williams, and my guest will be Gregg Sharp, who will be coming in here momentarily. Question: Is it weird to host a podcast show before you go to work? Right. That's where I'm at right now. Okay, so I'm sitting up here, working this graveyard shift, and I got another month and a couple weeks before I rotate to day shift. So this midnight thing is kind of wearing me out. So this will be my Monday. So, but other than that, while we wait for Gregg to hop on the show, as here he is, Mr. Gregg. What's up, friend?
Not much, my friend. How are you, Jody?
I'm doing pretty good. Doing pretty good. I just told everybody you'd be coming on momentarily, and here you are. Here you are.
As I always said, if you leave the door open, you never know what will blow in.
Exactly. Well, before we get into the big news that you're about to let everybody know, we are 11 days out from the WSA Finals in San Diego. New location. If I'm not mistaken, is the Harley Davidson dealership this year bigger than last year's?
It is. But I think I do want to say this. Apologize because I was a Beaver fan, a Beaver believer. The Beavs
Killing me, man.
I know. Listen, I put the Beav stuff to rest, but I'm still a Beaver fan at heart. I can't believe we lost last week. I've been following the Pac-12, trying to redevelop. It looks like they're one team away from, being a bona fide conference again.
Yeah.
I think they brought in Gonzaga as a basketball school, but Gonzaga doesn't have football, and if they did, they would be recognized and chartered. But I think they need one more school to come in to be Pac-12 certified again, which I'm hoping will help the Beavs, because I think that the loss of TV revenue, the loss of being a Big Five conference school or Super Five conference school hurts them playoff wise, right? In some values, and that hurts them when it comes to recruiting. I mean, you're only as good as you can recruit.
Yep.
And Boise State is maybe the epitome of independent schools in over the last decade that has done it well and stayed kind of relevant. But it's very hard for these second tier D1 schools to be in the mix. So, getting Pac-12 back into the mix, getting an automatic bye recognized certainly will help.
Right.
And I'm hoping that can happen, because, at the end of the day, we're always going to be Beavers, right? I mean, that's just the way it is.
Yes. Well, let's get down to business, because we got Nathan Williamson in the chat. We got Paul Stevens, Ryan Grondin. They're all in the chat. They're all waiting to hear, and everybody else, that's watching, are waiting to hear what news you have to tell everybody in the arm wrestling world. So, my friend, I will give you the floor.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, and not to create some drama here or this anticipational drama. I do want to also say to you, yes, the Harley Davidson, 11 days out. It is a bigger location. We were actually lucky enough to have them ask us to do a bike week event, which turned out to be very well. It was a very helpful thing for us. It gave us an opportunity to dynamically move around operational on a very small scale. And they were just awestruck, to be able to see what goes on in the world of arm wrestling. But now we have, 480 square feet of stage coming in. We have chairs, tables. We've got quite a bit of, fanfare around San Diego, that I think what you're going to see is a really pivotal event for us as an organization. And everyone is pivotal. Everyone takes us to another step. I think this one kind of gives us a little bit different direction, because it's really, as you can see when I post, I'm really gearing at the fan base now. The level of participation when it comes to the finals is really a moot issue. You either came to a regional or you didn't. You're either coming to the finals or you're not. We're not trying to market to the local teams at this point. to be able to kind of drum up the masses so that we can have a very well attended regional. Now, it really is or it isn't really. So we're really focusing now on bringing the fan to the location in lieu of bringing the arm wrestler. Because I know who's coming, right? I know from hotel rooms, I know from locational questions, I know from all of that we're going to be very well received. And to be honest with you, I think that the biggest fun class that we're going to see will end up being the super heavyweights. And I hate to diminish the 76s, 209s, and 239s in any way, because they're always fun. Like, they're always our packed house. Yeah. However, our super heavyweights are always kind of hit and miss. And by looking at the roll call for the super heavyweights, Corey West does not have a walk in the park for his title right-handed. Obviously Cody Merritt is our returning left. He doesn't have a walk in the park left-handed. And it really brings for some intriguing, tournament arm wrestling, in difference to super matches, right? So luck of the draw is going to play. Corey and Cody had some really, long matches last year, but the super heavyweight division was a bit light. Yeah. So even though one dropped to the B side, there were no real killers in the water on the B side to be able to stop, Corey coming back on the left and Cody coming back on the right to make it to the finals. This year, not the fact. We're probably 14, 16 deep if everyone comes that have said they're coming in the super heavyweights with with no easy pull on any of them. I'm not coming in to be one of the 16. It's like, you're not getting a layup with Gregg. You're getting some really high-end guys that are looking to cash, and it makes it exciting. The 76s, the 209s, the 239s, they're always exciting because I think we have the vast majority of arm wrestlers identifying in those three classes. And certainly a vast majority of California arm wrestlers fall in that 76 and 209. So we see those classes are always going to be full. But the super heavyweights being a big class is really, a unique thing. And I think it kind of attests to the strength of the organization. When you're able to start filling up all of the weight classes significantly, that participation value is no longer just kind of a whimsical idea. It's actually a fact. And you have a bracket that's going to be very competitive, which is great. And that's what we want. So November 2nd, I'm going to release an itinerary. I know a lot of arm wrestlers, we reached out on an email. Some of you have received it, some of you not. We had about 40 emails bounce back. We've tried to correct those and get those emails so we can send out itineraries. But we're going to publish a visual itinerary as well as an itinerary to all the athletes tomorrow. And then go from there, keep people updated as we get closer to the second. It's just an exciting time. And to be honest with you, Jody, it's a lot of hard work. We were able to reach 100,000 in prizes and cash. That came with STEM Regen. They brought $12,000 worth of product to the table, which is actually a very it's going to be a very unique and hopefully lucrative to athletes as well as our organization in terms of prize money in the future. They bring a unique value to us, and we'll go through that a little bit more, maybe even do a follow-up right after the finals, Jody, you and I, and go over what that STEM Regen affiliation for influencer program and athletes will look like. But we were very grateful that they were coming to the table, and that pushed us over that six-figure mark for the first time. I'm looking at the prize pools of awards and stuff. It's really a good feeling to be able to know that the people that are going to win significantly, whether it's cash, whether it's prizes in combination. If you win both weight classes and the overall, there is no doubt in my mind that you're walking home with pretty close to $17,000, $18,000 worth of cash and awards. It's hard to kind of put that into perspective for many people. And I think a lot of times people don't look at the prizes as a value. We do. But, you know, a 2,500 award, a 2,500 per arm with 1,500 overall, I mean, that's 8,000 there. A couple of watches that catch you almost to 12. And then all of the awards that go along with it, you know, another $4,000 or $5,000. That gets you this $17,000, $18,000 worth of awards and prizes that you're walking home with. That's a pretty good day for American arm wrestling. I can't say that we're at all trying to boast or be boastful about that. I think it's a good day, and it's a good step to what, you know, having a program on TV and being able to go to these sponsors and give them some real value that they may not have had, and start looking at us as a whole organization of arm wrestling, and start bringing some of that dollars back to us on an ad rev basis, which obviously that's, you know, part of this call, right? I mean, you know, the big news is where is Gregg Sharp pushing arm wrestling, and how is he doing it? You know, as I kind of dissected things, Jody, you know, to be a TV show is great, right? I mean, you know, we accomplished that. We put a check mark. First check mark was have a series for the year. We put a check in that box. Second check mark is take that series, edit it to be something that, you know, a streaming platform other than YouTube would find noteworthy, right? We check that. We're actually on a tier 1 system. I mean, if people really kind of identify what Tubi is, I mean, they're within the top 6 streaming platforms in the world. To be on Tubi TV is the equivalent of being on ABC Sports in the 80s and 90s. It is as good as it gets when it comes to streaming platforms, and we are you know, working with them to expand on a lot of other opportunities. So we check that box. We get through season 2. We check that box, and I know that everybody's, you know, the question is, when's it dropping? When's it dropping? And every day I call, and every day they tell me to be patient. So, I mean, I can tell you that there's 10 episodes that are terrific. I think that everybody's going to really enjoy it. I can tell you that season 3, what we've changed in terms of graphic package and how we look is going to shock everybody. I think it's going to blow the socks off of everybody. But then I started to look at the check boxes, and I said to myself, how do we grow? I mean, listen, I'm 54 years old. And knock on wood, I own a construction company that does very well. I own some side businesses that do very well. I don't necessarily have to do anything at all in terms of performance in my life on an occupational end to be known as anything. That's not the goal here. The goal for me was to be able to look at the broad span of what we're doing as a community, and how do we get better, right? How do we not just get World Series of Arm Wrestling money, but how do we get the guys from the Sean Hancocks, the TALs, the UALs, the Ryan Grodins, all of these guys out, the Steve Fernandezes, the Ryan Johnstons, the Corey Millers, the guys that are putting on shows religiously, and, you know, they're breaking even, maybe breaking a little bit better, sometimes breaking a lot better. But how do you take that now, and how do you give those guys a voice and a platform that brings everybody up? So in doing that, and kind of strategically looking at this, I came upon an opportunity to create a channel, and a channel that's unique. It's going to be called Inside Arm Wrestling, 24-hour sports and news channel. It's the official, what we call official. I mean, it's official for us, but, you know, titles are titles. Right. But what we're going to do is we're going to have what they call an EPG, electronic programming guide, as well as video on demand for all organizations out there that meet a criteria of what they call metadata and formatting. And I'll go through that with all of our partners as we go forward, and be able to take their program and get it into an AVOD, a licensing value, get them on tier 2, tier 1 stations to be able to be seen, universally be able to be seen, not just to try to get 3,000 subscribers and 10,000 minutes on YouTube to try to get $22 a year. the goal is to get them on to big platforms that are paying really good ad rev, with the goal to be able to take that ad rev for them and help them get better, right? And I say that, I mean, I can't dictate to everybody or anybody what they do in their organizations. If they make $100, they make $1,000, make $100,000 by having great content and having people want to see it. What they do with that money is really up to them. But the goal is hopefully that they're going to take that money and they're going to turn it into more of a value, pay themselves. I mean, it's part of doing business. You need to get paid, but pay themselves in a way that they're comfortable continuing to grow the sport and hopefully put that money back into prize money. Because at the end of the day, what happens, in my opinion, is that the only way we can create a sport that's uniquely viable in the U.S. is to be able to give people a uniquely viable way to remunerate that and pay themselves to be able to compete more than on a hobbyist basis, right? Mm-hmm. How do we take Jody Williams and say, Jody, you have a great potential. How do we get you paid so that you can be an arm wrestler at least part-time, 20, 30 hours a week, right? How do we get you to 40 hours a week? And Cobra, I'll answer your question in a second. I see it down there. I'm not good with these platforms, guys. So I know you're pinning questions and I see it. So it's not that I'm ignoring you, Cobra. It's just I gotta kind of do two things at once. And I took the gum out to be on this. I can't chew and walk. So, but how do we get the young arm wrestler and give them a trajectory that they can become a professional arm wrestler and be a career professional arm wrestler and make money? So once we do that, in my opinion, again, it's just my opinion, then we can start to really uniquely, community-wise, interface better worldwide, globally, and be competitive on all levels. I mean, and I think that's where we significantly lack in the United States, is that we are progressively a hobbyist sport, right? With the exception of maybe 3 arm wrestlers out there. Everybody else goes to work Monday through Friday, Sunday through Thursday, whatever it is. And, right. and they do their arm wrestling and their workouts, whenever their time and their family and their schedules can play it. Saying that, and bringing it all to a big informational ball. My goal is to be able to create professional arm wrestlers, not professional arm wrestlers that are considered pro level, but guys and girls that can actually get paid to be able to arm wrestle on a basis that they can, become world champions because of that freeness of opportunity. And I think if we bring everyone together, if I think and listen, I don't have to. The answer is I don't have to, right? I mean, I could keep what's in my sandbox and play with it for the rest of my time in it, and nobody else could probably touch me, and that's okay. I don't think that's what my purpose of doing this is. What I'm trying to do is get everybody to be able to get in the sandbox and everybody be able to compete and produce and to grow, so that way that goal happens. I'll never be world champion, right? I mean, the reality of arm wrestling for me is not what I can give to the arm wrestler on the table. For me, the uniqueness is what can I give to the arm wrestler when I'm not on the table or when they're not on the table, and that's what the goal is. So Inside Arm Wrestling is going to become a 24-hour channel. It's going to have an AVOD platform. It's going to start on a tier 2 platform. We have about to release it. We're actually going to do a promo video right after the finals for it. And we're also going to be landing on 2 tier 1s. And the reason why we're doing tier 2, and what I mean is tier 1 is the ESPNs, the Tubies, and such. And we're there. We have agreements to be on those platforms. But the tier 2 will allow us to kind of, cut teeth, if you will, or build a foundation, get all the kinks worked out. Because once you go on the biggest platforms, it changes the dynamic. You don't have the opportunity to make mistakes. You make a mistake, you're off, and you don't come back. So we really are taking our time to create the right dynamic. I've reached out to maybe 6 to 8 different content producers I've had some email conversations going back and forth. It's just a hectic time. I mean, November 2nd is around the corner. So, between building houses, building, platforms, building the finals, my eyes are droopy at times here because there's not a lot of sleep. But, it's all coming out and it's going to roll. So I got Cobra Rhodes. He says, I'm about to start producing shows in the Republic of Moldova again, Greg. Is there an exclusivity clause? No. I mean, the answer is that if your exclusivity is being asked, Cobra, that you have to be exclusive with Inside Arm Wrestling, the answer is no. No. What you'll have a non-exclusive agreement with my distribution company, which is RSG. RSG will place you on the platforms, and you will receive a 70-30 split of all revenue that comes through net distribution. So if we make $1 on your product, you get 70 cents net, right? So that's the deal. There's a lot of platforms that give you 50-50, 60-40 the wrong way, 30-70 the wrong way. We're giving you 70-30 back to your platform through RSG. Then we're going to use a percentage of that money from Inside Arm Wrestling to continue to grow our pool money of prizes for Inside or for a World Series of Arm Wrestling. By doing that, we're going to continue to increase our prize money with our goal to get you to at least $500,000 a season. That is the goal. And at the end of the day, I think it's a very attainable goal now that I've put the pieces together.
I do have a question. So
sure.
In arm wrestling, there's that C word, okay? So
what's the C word?
The C word is contracts. So
sure.
And I thought I'd be remiss if I don't bring it up because that seems to be the word of all words these days in arm wrestling, especially the last 6 months. So is there any contracts that will be present when all this thing kicks off?
The answer is no, but I want to caution that answer a little bit because you're going to be involved with the house, right?
Yep.
So you're going to have a contract with us, and what that contract is going to say in general terms is that you're agreeing to come on specific days to compete. In this TV series, you have to be in good shape, in good mind, and in good spirit, right? So you have to be able to lock yourself into X, Y, and Z. And then you also have an agreement that you'll need to come to the regional Riverside, the June 28th regional, because we're going to have the final at that regional, really to grow some excitement into the season. So in order to put all this together, there's a contract, right? Yep. And in that contract, we'll probably stipulate, because I think it's fair and reasonable, that there'll be a cooling off period between the regional on June 28th and when you can compete in between, right? Now, we're going to be shooting in April, so that's really only May and part of June. So we're going to ask that our athletes stay out of other tournament opportunities for that period of time. And the reason is not because we don't want them to go out and win. It's because we've invested, 10, 12, 14 days of filming and weeks of preparation. And we need you at the finals, right? To be able to put together, your team and for your team to compete for winning. I mean, we're going to give away 10 grand. So if you can't make that commitment, then you shouldn't be on the show. And it's no different than The Bachelor. It's no different than Survivor. And, these
Game of Arms.
Yeah, entertainment is entertainment, right? I mean, there are some clauses that go in there. Now, does that mean that after the June 28th regional and the finale for the house, does that mean that you can't go out and compete in other organizations? The answer is no. Go out and compete wherever you want, right? I mean, I'm not giving you a ticket that says you can't go any further, right? You have to stop. You can't go. That's it. You're with us forever, because I can't pay what I would consider a wage that would ask for you to be exclusive to me, right? So the answer is that contracts or that C word is really a definable word. And when you put a definition behind it, I think it can make sense. going forward, if we compete or we continue to grow in a way that we can offer athletes contracts to be able to have them compete with us exclusively, and we can pay them to do that, I think that there should be that option on the table. There's nothing that says that if I can afford to give Jody Williams $10,000 a month, that I shouldn't be able to ask Jody Williams to be exclusive to me, right? Now, right. And now it brings up a bigger thing. Let's say Jody Williams is the world champ, and now I have him as an exclusive. Now there's a bargaining chip, right? I mean, you look at sports and how it grows. This is how it grows. Mm-hmm. Now Jody Williams is going to say, well, all right, Gregg, maybe the best offer is 10,000, but maybe 2 years from now, the next offer is 15. What is Gregg Sharp and World Series going to offer, right? Do we keep Jody Williams on? Do we look to renegotiate? Do we look for ways of being competitive? I mean, Walter Payton, a lot of people don't know, was probably the first generational salaried athlete. George Halas and the Halas family in Chicago couldn't pay Walter Payton what he was worth. Literally walked up, and I know because I have a good friend who's friends with the Payton family and was friends with Walter Payton. And they basically deferred his salary over a lifetime, right? And so you see that now more in sports and baseball, and it's attacking. But, when you start to negotiate, I mean, longevity is a key. I mean, they were able to put together something that kept, Walter there for his career. And I think that, the uniqueness of arm wrestling is that, we're kind of still, battling the infant stages of 50 years of being somewhere, that we still have the time to be able to redevelop a pathway that will hopefully, be a solid one that can take us further out into, the 2030s and beyond. And I think if your mindset is in that range, I think then you're really in the value of what arm wrestling is about. And if your mindset is to just, get 120 entries at your promotion so you can break even, it doesn't mean your mindset is wrong. It just doesn't mean that your mindset is in the development of the sport. It's more in the consistency of the sport, and then we need consistent players too. But look at the channel aspect, because you can be a consistent player and still be able to grow. And that's what we want to do. We want to be able – listen, Larray Jenkins, he's a good guy out there. I chat with him back and forth. Having some stability in what he does will make a big difference. I've talked to Ian Carnegie up in with Mac. We're in conversations with them. I don't have to be the best organization out there. I don't. And I probably won't be. I mean, at some point, there's ebbs and flows in every business. We're on a high tick. We've continued to grow, each year. I use a very methodical way of growth that maybe is different than others. We don't see highs, we don't see lows, at least at this point after 3 years. So the consistency is there, but is somebody going to come with a bigger pot of gold? And maybe. And what does that mean? It means nothing. It means that we're doing something right? If somebody's willing to invest and somebody's willing to take the time to get further along in the sport, then some of the guys that are kind of blazing the way at this point into this tech field and these platform fields are really really doing the right thing, right? At the end of the day.
I will say this though, with a lot of organizations and what they do, there's success, then there's come jealousy, then there's come people trying to, knock them down. And I will say this, I applaud your efforts that you kind of sit back. I'm just going to be in my own little sandbox doing my thing and let everybody else just kind of attack this league or that organization. You're just kind of doing your own thing. And, for that, I do applaud, because you don't get involved in all the ping pong, effect of all that dumb stuff. And so you've done a great job with that, and I appreciate that. Can you talk about, some of the things, I know some of this, but for some of the people in the chat that are curious about the house, the only thing we know is that filming will take place in the spring, you said April, and then there's $10,000 up for grabs. What else are you allowed to talk about as far as that goes?
Well, we have it structured out. I have so there you have two teams, and it's based over a weekly competition, and obviously there's a point accumulation, which we talked about. Yeah. There's an arm wrestling value, and then there's a lifestyle value, right? The arm wrestling value is that you know each of these teams, your team and Jamie's team, have to have guys that can win on the table, right? And there's a point system for that. The other part is there's challenges, and the challenges have nothing to do with arm wrestling, right? In many ways, I can tell you briefly that we have two firmly committed sponsors that have unique challenges, which are really going to be fun. Now, I can't tell you what the challenges are, because then if I do, then nobody's going to want to watch it. Or you guys will be smart enough to say, well, oh, geez, Gregg's going to have a pie eating contest. We better all go out and buy some cherry pies and, practice eating to make it happen, right? So I'm smart enough to know that if you're going to want to rob a bank with me in the future, I'm not going to be the guy that's going to break during the interrogation. I know you're trying, Jody. I can't give it all away.
No, I get it.
What I can say to you is that there's two components, right? So the arm wrestling is going to be a value end of it. The non-traditional end is going to bring the human side, the attachable side to it, and ultimately, what it really wants to feel and value is that these are people in the community that have all different walks of life that can compete on all kinds of different challenges of life. They're identifiable, they're likable, they're personable, and at the end of the day, we get people want to follow us, right? And that's the goal. I could put 5 guys on each team with you guys as the captains and just have crazy, interesting matches. But you put it out to the American public, what are they gonna say, right? And they're gonna be like, all right, so I watched this guy flash this guy. I watched this guy it looks like he made a slight adjustment in the hand, or he went to the strap and he slipped out, and this guy can't beat this guy in the strap. Where do you take that home or where do you take that into work the next day to talk to your friends about what you saw on TV? The great thing about Game of Arms is that, it had an alluring value that it had a takeaway. And ironically enough, you had Cobra on there. And when you watch the Game of Arms and you watch these athletes, you watch Cobra Rhodes, you watch the Travis Bages, you watch some of these guys in their hometowns, you could take them away and say, wow, wait a second, I don't care who won, but holy cow, what was the drama all about her? He has an interesting life story. Or, man, I know that, I see this guy somewhere. I mean, he might be in my hometown. I live in Detroit. This guy's in Detroit. Holy shit, this is the guy that's my grocer, and I had no idea he was a world champion arm wrestler, right? So when you start to be able to identify characters, again, we understand the value of growth, right? I mean, two trajectories of growth. You can put on the very best 2 guys in the sport and have the world of arm wrestlers have a unique value of who they think is going to win or not. Or you could take the same 2 arm wrestlers or 20 arm wrestlers or 50 arm wrestlers and develop a character and a personality and something that is identifiable. And now the sport grows infinitesimally.
Right.
I walk around Venice Beach and LA at times. I say this because it's true. I was at an event and the actual drummer from Rat was there, and we start talking, and we're talking a little bit, and he goes, I know who you are. And I go, I make independent films. You probably don't know who I am, right? I mean, it's, I'm not Steven Spielberg. I'm Gregg Sharp. He goes, no, I've seen you. I've seen you somewhere. He goes, I seen you on YouTube, or you were a heel. And I started laughing. I go, yeah, beat my grandpa. He goes, yeah, man. He goes, you were awesome, right? So now you've got a guy that's worth tens of millions of dollars, as one of the most iconic bands of the 80s and the 90s. he's talking to me as if I'm some sort of world champion arm wrestler. And and I always say if I had $1 for every time somebody asked me if I knew Devin Lorette, I'd be a rich man. If I had $10 every time somebody asked me after that question if I could beat Devin Lorette, I'd be an even richer man, right? So if Devin Lorette is the most identifiable arm wrestler and personality there is right now, which is not a stretch to say, and people are looking at me as identifiable on some value, maybe not the same being a world champion, but being in the world of arm wrestling, then we're doing something right, because people are now paying attention to the sport, not the competition, right? They're starting to pay attention to the personalities. And when you have a personality that is endearing and is identifiable, the sport then grows, because they want to. Some people want to see you succeed, some people want to see you fail, but they all want to see you.
Right.
And again, it goes back to building the channel, right? It's down to back to building the platform. And Inside Arm Wrestling uniquely will be one of 7 different channels I'm launching. And I don't mean that to be boastful or anything. I mean, we have all kinds of genres going on. My personal goal with arm wrestling is to bring the sport to the highest point I can. But I'm goal oriented. God didn't give me, the ability to run a 4.3 40. He didn't give me the ability to shoot a 3. He didn't give me the ability to beat Devin Lorette on the table. He did give me enough ability to be strategic enough on a business end, humbly, to be able to say, okay, these are the things I can do. These are the things I can put together in structure. So, our ultimate goal is Inside Arm Wrestling. We have Warrior Fight Channel coming out. We've got a couple other channels. We're actually going to have a channel. It's going to call Worst Movies Ever. And really, it's unique, but people are going to gravitate to it because it's going to be the worst movies. I mean, if you're drunk on a Saturday night, and I don't want you to be out there driving and drunk, but you're in a fraternity or sorority and you guys are playing ping pong or ball pong or whatever it is, I've seen all the games. Put on the Worst Movies Ever channel and drink every time somebody sees a camera in the lens, or and the audio tracks get. Listen, I watched Zombies in the Lake growing up as a kid on a horror movie. It was awful, but you know what? It was fun to watch.
Right.
The goal for me is ultimately to become a tier 1 platform. We just created G2F Media Group, and ultimately, my 7-year goal is to be or better, right? I mean, that's where we're going. And then, I put it out there not to be pretentious again. I use that word. It's just to be able to say that's where I'm going. Hopefully I get there. If you're fans and you want to cheer me on, great. If you want to cut me down, just like Jody said, I'm cool as a cucumber. You can write whatever you want about me on the comments and stuff. I own the Extreme Fight Series, which was one of the most loved and hated MMA companies in the world. I put more people into the UFC and Bellator than anyone between 2011, 2016. And I can tell you, the writing, that the people that loved me, the people that hated me, MMA Weekly, the Ariel Shawanis, the Mark Ramondis, they would have a field day. And I'd always laugh because people would say, "Hey, did you see what they wrote about you?" I said, "No, but tell me later when I have a minute." And it never bothered me. It's just, well, what can you do? You could fight all you want on social media platforms, but you can't play left field for the New York Yankees or the LA Dodgers in the World Series with your back to the batter facing the crowds, right? You got to concentrate on the batter. You got to concentrate on your pitcher. You got to concentrate where the ball's being hit. You got to keep your head in the game. The distractions around, they all have some validity to it. They all have some drama to it. But at the end of the day, if I step into that forum of fighting, all I'm going to do is express an opinion that is not going to change anybody else's opinion. It's only going to aggravate some or support others, and it doesn't do me any value. I mean, why waste 30 minutes of time if The last 30 minutes of my life is on a bed and I can't see my kids because they're 22 minutes away. And I look back and said, you know what? I wish I didn't waste 30 minutes on social media arguing about something I couldn't change. And that was the difference between me saying goodbye to my kids and, or not. I keep that in perspective and say, I'm not going to waste time. And listen, I think a lot of the conversations are very productive and are very constructive, and they need to be had. I just don't think that I'm the person to have them.
Right.
Better voices out there that articulate it better than I do, like yourselves, the Lukes, who, pollsters who come on, all of those guys. They have a forum to be able to talk about those things. That's what you guys do. You're not looking for me to become the best podcaster in the world. You're hoping that I'm going to stay consistent to the business model and grow World Series of Arm Wrestling, so that way there's more for you guys to talk about in positive and negative ways, right?
Yeah, and my next question is a tricky question, but I got to ask to make sure we get clarification. So we all know, anytime you go to a qualifier of the WSA, you qualify for the finals, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so now those who will be involved with the house when we shoot, and then the Riverside qualifier will be the finale, yes?
Correct.
So for those involved, does that mean they come to Riverside and then they qualify for the finals, or do they have to go to another qualifier?
No. They would qualify for the finals there.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because
I thought you might be going in a different direction with that question. I was like, okay, is it gonna be if they didn't qualify or more of I'm getting hit. It's 11 days out and I'm getting hit by, hey, I didn't come to a qualifier, but I'd love to be able to pull in the finals question, right?
I wouldn't do that to you. I know the rules, but I got the schedule right here for next year, season 4, 2025, everybody. Hear me out. June 28th, Riverside, California. July 12th, Fort Worth, Texas. Now, July 19th is still open. So I'm assuming you're kind of trying to check out the area and go, where can I put that qualifier? So right now, that's a question mark. I'm sure we'll hear about it down the road. We got July 26th, Jacksonville, North Carolina. We got August 2nd, Atlantic City, New Jersey. August 9th will be in Kansas City, Kansas. And the last chance qualifier will be August 16th in Ogden, Utah. And obviously, the finals will be November 1st. So, again, everybody, pick one. They're all over the place. They're broken down into regions, east, west, north, south, or whatnot. So, there you go.
And, I try to, there's always the critical thinking behind it. I think critical thinking is important. The critical thinking behind it is, a lot of people say, well, why don't you do them in the spring? It's so much easier to get people to come in the spring. Why don't you do them in the fall? Because it's so much easier to get people to come in the fall. But at the end of the day, I do it in the summer for a reason. And honestly, when I etched it out, the reason is because the volume of tournaments during that time seemed to be a low time, right? So, ultimately playing in the sandbox, I want to be able to play in the most effective way for myself as well as fair for others. I don't want to go in. I know Don and we talked about killing the city, right? There's an old term of killing the city, killing the town. I used to call it flooding the market. It's a wrestler's term where, you have promotions that come in before and after, and they pull the crowds and they pull the pullers. So I try to do it so I'm not pulling anybody from other tournaments. As a matter of fact, I don't mind bringing to the table. There was an opportunity for me to do a Nashville show on July 19th, and I reached out to Lorraine Jenkins and I said to him, I go, am I in a position that I'm going to pull from your tournament? Because he has the Tennessee States, I think 2 weeks from that, right? Or the following week or some very close. And he said, yeah, Greg, he goes, it would kill me. I said, I'm not gonna put my tournament there. I have a place. It's right in line. I could do Nashville on July 19th, but out of respect for a man that's trying to do his best to promote the sport, I communicate, right? So, is there other areas? Maybe we find ourselves down in Mississippi. Maybe we find ourselves in Alabama. Maybe we find ourselves in Florida. There are opportunities out there that we will see. I'm not going to do one of. I'm going to go this way. If I know it's kind of the way I'm looking at it on my screen, I'm going counterintuitively, but I'm hoping that the way I'm pointing makes sense to people who are watching me. I start in Riverside here, and I go to Texas. I'm not going to go up to Alaska. I want to go somewhere here, so that way I can come back up to Jacksonville, Atlantic City, Kansas City, or to Utah, and then back home. So it's geographically positioned that somewhere I can get within 2 days of driving is where I'm going to go. Could be Mississippi, the Gulf Coast. I'm going to talk with Sean Hancock a little bit more on the finals about that. Might be Alabama. There's some good promotions out in Alabama. It's got a big pull of people down there. The Jacksonville, North Carolina is a locked-in location for us. We really enjoyed being there, growing area. It's got the military base. It's really becoming a big value to me. It may not be our biggest tournament, but it is a selfishly valuable place because my son is there.
Yeah.
And Atlantic City, they're going to look to do more. We had a good turnaround in Kansas City this year from our original Kansas City event. Ryan Johnson did a great job. Justin Green did a great job, rounding up the troops up in Utah. But at the end of the day, it's still a choice. People choose to come or they don't.
Right.
And how you become the best choice, I don't know that you can ever become the best choice. I think you become the best convenience. And hopefully what we're doing is we're creating some convenience that when guys are looking at tournament schedules, they find that we're convenient for them to go to. And we're hoping that the pot of gold continues to grow, that it makes sense for people to come. It's a free tournament. The finals are free. Other than finding your plane ticket and your hotel room, it's a free tournament. If you're in the top 8 in the world of World Series of Arm Wrestling, which is different than being top 8 in the world, top 8 in the U.S., if you're in the top 8 of the World Series of Arm Wrestling, you're going home with at least $100. And if you're in the top 8 in both arms, you're going home with at least $200. So it's at least, if you bought your ticket in an early advance, pretty much a round trip ticket, albeit in coach. It's still a round trip ticket you can get for $200-300 in and out of San Diego if you bought them early enough.
Right.
But then you get to hang out with a lot of high-end pullers. You get to go down to San Diego in terms of the town. We're at Park nightclub this year. You get to experience the nightlife. I've got some friends that'll be on the list that are restaurants that'll give you a discount if you want to eat there on Friday or Saturday night. If you want to go to STK, I've got the general manager's information, so that you guys can make reservations there. So I've tried to go out of my way to create, some conveniences for everyone.
Right.
And that way, win, lose, or draw, you have a place to go, an experience to have, and you can put it on your calendar for next year and say, man, going to San Diego is just an amazing time. And hopefully that's the value that grows us, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? By the time we're in 2028, 8th place might be $1,000.
Never know.
So, but what I do encourage people to do, and I think it's a selfish thing that I do put out there, and I will say it in hopefully the right way. There's a lot of people out there that are competitive. There's no better way, I think, than the World Series of Arm Wrestling to really show how good you are. That doesn't mean that other people's tournaments are less valuable. What I'm saying is that as a group, as a conglomerate of regional events, we're bringing in talent from across the country to be able to have you guys as arm wrestlers, and myself included, but not as much anymore, have you athletes have a platform to really see if you're as good as you say you are on social media, right? There's a lot of guys that will have competed and qualified that are going to go out and do other things on the same day in other tournaments, and I appreciate that. But how do you really know how good you are in the U.S. against the U.S. unless you go to a tournament similar to what we do.
Your
and
tournament is
find out.
almost like a national to a certain degree. And I'll just use, when you have Varej, Corey West, Cody Merritt, Brent Rockers, Steve Black and his crew up in New York area with Paul Cruz. You got the guys in the Midwest. You got Danny Gillian in Texas, and the list goes on and on. So it's
Robbie Burnett, Anthony Lowe, Trenton Black, Adam Warinsky, Ron Bath. You want to keep going. Ryan Johnston has come back from the Worlds, is competing. Wallace Dilly. If it wasn't for 2 injuries, you'd have Austin Tevis and Bo Olsen there. You got Cody Merritt, Ryan Constantino, Joe Meeks. You've got Julian Smith. You've got Jordan Sill. You've got Alex Jankowski. You've got Brian Malik. And that's just guys outside of California. And
right.
You're coming to California, you got your Rez, your David Egan's, your Davids. Alan Fisher is competing at 69 years young. You've got a slew of talent that's coming across. If you really want to see how good you are, there's no better platform. There are platforms, but I don't think there are any better platforms than what we put together for you to actually see how good you are. And then that may be a little bit cocky and maybe a little bit self-centered, but there is a little bit of pride in organization and pride and value of doing it. I think that we give you an opportunity to be able to put a financial number behind it, to be able for you to come in and just put everybody to rest. I mean, you're either going to find out you're the best or you're not, right? If you think you're the best super heavyweight out there, then there's nobody better to go through than the gatekeeper at WSA of Cody Merritt or Corey West, right? If you think that you're the very best 176 out there, you know what? Until you beat Vrez Zadrakian, I don't care who you think you are, right? Until you beat that man, you could say that you're the number 1 ranked 176 in the country. I don't believe it. I've watched the man go to a tournament and beat everybody from 165 to super heavyweight, left and right hand, on all levels, world champion levels. So there are a lot of people out there that'll make the claims, and that's fine. And I bet you on any given day they might be, able to do what they say they do. But here's the thing. I mean, unless you're willing to come and find out on any level of tournament action, I'm not talking about super matches, the different stories, right? I'm talking about if you're in a tournament setting, I don't know that there's a better way for you in the United States to be able to find out just where you rank than what we do. Yeah. And I'll stand by that because it's just I think it's you have to have, some spirit of accomplishment in what you do and not being boastful. And I just think we have the best platform for that right now. And that may change a couple of years from now, but right now, I think if you want to really prove yourself as a tournament arm wrestler, there's no better place to prove that than WSA.
There it is, folks. There you have it. And like I said, going to something like that, it means a lot, to me. It's like, okay, it brings back the old school tournaments where it wasn't so much about the money, and it does, trigger people in a good way, but it's about the competition. Who did you beat to get that $1,000 in cash prizes? It goes like that. I think, at some point we kind of got away from that. Now, don't get me wrong. I think with the super match format is awesome. Don't get me wrong. I love the one-on-one because I think we all know that is the one way to say who's better than who. But sure, not everybody can match up at the same time, So from a tournament standpoint, it's like, okay, there's that guy, there's that guy. If I get some wins on this guy, you doing something. You are doing something. And by the way, everybody in the chat, thanks for watching again. I remind you, if you decide to come down there, if you're a competitor or a spectator, put your phones away. We're not having that. Tell them, Gregg.
Well, it is a closed set, right? I mean, it is a closed set. So, up until 1 o'clock, you can snap some pictures. We're going to have 2 red carpets there. We're going to be doing interviews. We're going to be doing some backstories of the athletes checking in. We're going to have a camera guy at the hotels. We're going to, there's going to be some different level of production that we haven't had in the past. But at 1:00, the cameras go away. We put up all that money. We've done all that effort to get the prizes and the value there, with the goal of being able to put it out to be seen in a program setting. Listen, we all know who walks away, who wins, an hour later, right? I mean, but do you get to see the value? Do you have to tune into the program? That's our value. We want to put eyeballs to the test, and that test helps us analytically accumulate the data we need to be able to take it to our sponsors and grow it.
Right.
It all comes down to that, guys. It's a business decision on my end. It's a solid business decision. Do we suffer in some ways? Our social media, has it not grown, as quickly as others may have because of that policy? And the answer is yes. I mean, right? I mean, there are some hindrance to it, but we still see steady growth. We still see an aggregated engagement with the 1,200 to the 5,000 followers we have on different platforms, and we see that in a way that it's quantitative to when we put something out. It's not an aggregate over the course of a year. We know when we drop something, we know how many unique viewers are liking it, how many are engaging in it. Actually, our YouTube has grown just by putting the Bike Week value up. The 3 hours, I think we're over 5,000 subscribers now for what we do there, at a very steady growth. But the answer is that the uniqueness of the business that I'm hoping to be able to translate to others is that when you can show that, you can quantify what you can get in terms of sponsorship. There are so many guys. I hear from guys all the time. They're going to do this show, that show. There's a lot of people out there who's doing a lot of things that aren't going to get to where they need to be.
Right.
They just don't have the connections to get there. It's Inside Arm Wrestling, guys, is a way for you to be able to be seen. Work it, use it, engage it. It's going to give back to the community. It's going to give back to you in terms of the content producer. And it's going to put us at where we haven't been before. And it's not putting us in a position that we haven't been before, but putting us in a position where we are consistent to be able to not come back or not come down. We've been to the ESPNs before. And listen, I can take $46,000 out of my pocket right now, go over to ESPN and say, give me an hour from 1:00 to 2 a.m. in the morning, or give me an 11 to 12 slot on ESPN 28. And there's ways of doing it, but we don't want to buy time. We want time to buy us, right? Yeah. And if we look at that, then and we establish that, then and only then do we create a winning equation. The answer is that we could be on. I could put you on. I could put Jody Williams' match against Paul Stevens on ESPN tomorrow. Well, maybe not tomorrow, but exaggerated wise. But let's say 3 weeks from now, I could put your match on Paul's. I just have to pay the money to be able to put it out there, and it's there. But what did that do? Right? I mean, all it did was it made me feel or made me determine that ESPN was more important than WSA.
Right.
That's one way of looking at it. But instead, let's look at it the opposite way. How about if we get WSA to a point through Inside Arm Wrestling and other platforms that ESPN now comes to us and says, we want you to be consistent with us. We don't want you to pay us. We want to license you to be here. Different equation. We haven't seen that. We've seen a lot of pay for play over the years. That is for sure. But we haven't seen a consistent value since probably the 80s or 90s with ABC Wild World of Sports, as well as with Game of Arms. Had it for a small season. It wasn't able to hold that position due to several reasons, but that's okay. It was there, and it was really a ground setting equation for arm wrestling. But we need to find ourselves on consistent platforms. And listen, you can throw beanbags through a plywood platform on ESPN, and play cornhole all day long. You can have breakdancing content. No, listen, breakdancers are talented. Don't get me wrong. You can watch breakdancing on ESPN. You can watch pillow fighting on ESPN. You can watch English darts on ESPN. A lot of those are pay for play. I'm not saying which ones are and which ones aren't. But if you've got a sponsor that wants you to be there, then you can afford to be there, then you're going to be there, right? Paul, I would love to tell you to turn on your TV right now, Paul. The answer is I talk to Tubi every day. The answer is that season 2 is in their system. All they have to do is hit that magical toggle switch, in my opinion, and it's up. I just don't know. I have had movies and series go up in 3 days. It took me almost 9 months to get Explode Fight Series up. It took us almost a year to get the first season of World Series of Arm Wrestling up. It's hard to tell. I can tell you it's accepted. It's greenlit, which means that it's in their system. I don't know. Maybe there's just some guy out there who's running around toggle switches and clicking them up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Don't know. But ultimately, I know it's accepted. I know it's ready. It will also air on Amazon. We're placing it on Amazon as well. It'll be on Inside Arm Wrestling 24-hour channel. It'll be on a bunch of other platforms. But right now, Tubi is our best paying platform. So we're keeping it open for them to place first. It doesn't make sense for us to put it on a platform that won't pay us as well, right, to then find ourselves not being able to take advantage of that pay scale. But that's it. That's the easiest answer. I wish I could tell you. If it was my decision, we'd have been up 3 months ago.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, and I hope people out there understand that it's just like when you learn this sport, it's a marathon, not a race. And I know some people are eager out there, and you just got to kick back. You just now, because we are embarking 11 days from now, the season 3 finale, right? And we're going to be at the Harley Davidson dealership in San Diego, and then we could put a bow tie on season 3. And then if you look at it, just take a step back and go, once we do get this thing rolling on Tubi, then it's like, okay, now here's season 2. Everybody can sit there and watch party, whatever the case you want, you want to do that kind of stuff. Meanwhile, season 3 is hanging back going, okay, we got things rolling. Let us go ahead and do our thing. And then we can release season 3. And by that time, we'll be getting season 4 in, the house or whatnot. So it's more like we're just backlogging. And then once we get the green light, okay, release, sit back, release, sit back, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm just guessing. I'm not saying that's how it does, but I'm just guessing that's how it works.
Well, I was actually looking at my phone as because my editor was. I asked him if he could give me a sneak peek of the graphic for season 3, which I thought we worked on to create a whole new look. But he hasn't sent it over to me. I keep looking aside. I was going to turn the phone around for you to see it, but I don't see that that's what I got there. To be honest with you, I was hoping it was, but no, it's not. Our graphic package this year and the change of how we do things, and listen, if you don't see the value of what we do every year, in what the end product will look like, and what you see in season 2 and then season 3 and 4, then I think that it becomes lost in translation a little bit, because every year we try to get a little bit better, and hopefully these things live into we use the word in perpetuity because it lasts forever in some values, right? Mm-hmm. So you can show these videos to your kids, your grandkids. They can pass them down, pass them along, your coworkers. They're going to be up there for a long time. So I that's the gift that I hope that I'm giving all arm wrestling as well as a chance for them to be, heroes in their own little worlds, right? And not in a bad way, but in their own families, in their own communities, to be able to somebody be able to say, hey, I know that guy, just like they knew me from Beat Your Grandpa, like they knew, guys from Games of Arms, and being a local hero, being a hero to your kids, being a hero to your family, being a hero to the people around you. I don't know that there's not a better feeling, right? I mean, it's if we're giving that, then what better? How better can you walk away from something than to know that people are going to look at you and really just cherish the time that they see you? And I think there's that other innate value, right?
There you go. Well, Gregg, my friend, I think you've answered all the questions I had and stuff, and we've been on here for 1 hour and 5 minutes, and I'm gonna go ahead and put a bow tie on this bad boy because I got to go ahead and start getting ready for work. But I know you got some more shows during the week to go ahead and we're gonna talk just about that. And who knows, maybe some other people have more questions. So I know we had a lot of people come on last minute. So Steve West, and we had Tim Talmadge, and Police Show TV. Hey, go back and watch the show. I'm gonna go ahead and post this bad boy as soon as we get done. But once again, Gregg, my friend, thank you for joining me on the show tonight.
I appreciate you, Jody. We'll see you in a week and a half.
11 days. 11 days.
11 days.
Take care.
Have a good one. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Yes.